Good afternoon. Calling to order council time this Wednesday, January 14th, 2026. Let's start with a roll call.
Councillor Young,
Here.
Councillor Belcott,
Present.
Councillor Fuentes,
Here.
Councillor Little,
Present.
and Chair Marshall.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
None today.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments? I see no one in the room. Is there anyone online? 3 online, okay.
Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment. Okay, we're going to move on to the next person. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Wendy Cleveland. I'm speaking on the comp plan as it is now on the agenda, specifically the site-specific requests. The decisions this council makes are ones that they are going to have to take home with them. They're going to have to live with the outcome of all of this for a lifetime, as will the community members it will inevitably affect. That's all of us. We're all connected by the air we breathe, by the water we drink as it pours from the clouds, down the mountainsides, into the streams running through our valleys, such as Mill Creek, into our rivers, and out to the ocean. Once our resources are lost, they're lost forever. So the decisions you make, whether or not you honor these annexations or land grabs, as I call them, will live on. Of particular concern is the land swap or annexation in Battleground. That seems to have fallen off the radar. It seems that the city of Battleground seeks to swap the Meadowglade Annex for Dollars Corner. You know, today we heard about those problems facing Mill Creek, and it runs through that area, through Dollars Corner, that BG is seeking to annex. Let me tell you why all of this is significant and potentially a huge problem. Meadowglade is a community of homes, churches, community centers, schools. It's already built out. Regardless of what you guys are being told, it's built out. I implore you to drive through it. Take 179th off of 503. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. It's lowland. So Dollars Corner, on the other hand, is the most vast open field with streams. It's lowland and often underwater. Mill Creek runs through it. BG wants it as buildable land for industry, for jobs. Our migratory birds want it as a winter nesting ground. We want the clean water that comes from the aquifer that lies beneath it. The city of Battleground stated that it will need 7,000 new jobs. If they were to fit that many in that amount of land, I don't see how that could be achieved unless they are thinking factories and industrial. That is exactly what that area does not need, especially with Mill Creek running through it. The foothills would trap toxic air. The mountain runoff, let's see, we'll have nowhere to go. Factories will raise the value of the land and therefore raise the taxes of the land in the surrounding area. A large percentage of BG's citizens are retired and living on fixed incomes. A tax increase will not be welcome or affordable and could pose challenges with them keeping their homes. The chair of this county's council used to stand with us in the environmental community in our fight to stop urban sprawl specifically and the destruction of our natural ecosystem. She fought long and hard to protect our neighbors' way of life, and we all appreciate it. She has since joined the council and the government. I ask today of her and the rest of this council, I hope that you can live with the decisions that you're about to make, and most importantly, can we? Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Kimberly Goheen Elbin. Good afternoon. Yeah, I tried to unmute last time and it didn't do it, and I thought, oh, here we go. So under 8.2 legislative update, I have an update of my own here. since we can't tap on it and see what you guys are talking about. I have an important call to action for Clark County taxpayers, the voters, and general citizens who are concerned about our state and want to help. Governor Ferguson has 2 adjoining bills to be greatly concerned about. The first is Senate Bill, or SB 5967, that has a hearing tomorrow, January 15th at 8 a.m., and House Bill, or HB 2242, set for this Friday, January 16th at 8 a.m. Again, both bills are related and are highly concerning as they will make major steps towards centralizing vaccines authority in Washington state. God only knows what he's trying to do. You can read up on it. I don't have that information right now, but I ask people to read about those, the Senate Bill 5967 and House Bill 2242 for your information. Also, another little update, and related actually to the comp plan, is that tonight at 5 to 7 p.m. will be the County Charter Review Commission. It's their first one this year. It's very important to listen to that, and very difficult to find on the website, I might add, as is the Planning Commission hearing meetings on Thursday night at 5:30. It's a continuation from last Thursday's commission hearing, which we can also again stress, as Ms. Cleveland mentioned, that we're in big, deep trouble. And according to the workshop today, you guys all admit it, but I don't see anything being done with our hard-earned tax dollars to actually clean our water. These stormwater situations with the tires and all this, it's all pollution that we've known about for decades. And all I see is these internal governments spending our hard-earned tax dollars and really just jabbering, but really not doing anything about it. We are in big trouble. I've been watching a show called Extinction. It's called The Truth. So you can look that up on PBS. We're extinct. Things are getting extinct, our air and everything. And I don't know why you will not be open to the public as to what is actually going on in our ecosystem. Again, I've asked for a 5-year no growth overlay that will help the stability of our lands and our frogs and our bees and our bugs and our deer and our eagles to all get back down to what they needed to do, because we've been very bad stewards of this earth and taking care of our lands. We're in big trouble. I don't know how much more I can say this, but you are to listen to the people. And just because only 1 or 2 or 3 speak up, there's.
Okay, thank you. Your time's up. Is there one more?
One more.
Thanks.
Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
Hello, my name's Heidi Pozo, and I'm here to speak about growth management in the comprehensive plan. In 2004 and 2007, the county placed 2,200 acres of land in urban holding that were included in the newly expanded Vancouver urban growth area because the transportation infrastructure in those areas lacked adequate capacity to accommodate urban level development. At the November 12, 2019 council meeting, Clark County Council lifted the urban holding designation. As part of this process, there was an acknowledgement of the concurrency regulations that require infrastructure upgrades. Since that decision has been made more than 6 years ago, the infrastructure is largely in the same condition it was when the urban holding designation was removed. The roads are still narrow 2-lane rural roads with a ditch on the side for runoff. No streetlights, no sidewalks, no bike lanes, no transit. GIS indicates water runs north-south along Delphil, 10th, 29th, and 50th, as well as east-west along 179th. However, there are no water connections in the spaces between, except for the few parcels that have been developed. GIS also indicates sewer is not in place north of 179th. The 179th project will widen the road and add bike lanes and sidewalks. If all goes according to plan, in 2031, 1 mile of road between I-5 and 29th will have these amenities, along with the intersection adjacent to I-5 on the west. It will take several more years for the additional mile between 29th and 50th to be widened. This timeline is well beyond the 6-year requirement under the Growth Management Act. The 2025 comprehensive plan proposal is to double density in an area that, while zoned medium, is actually rural. That means putting high density housing into an area with no infrastructure or amenities. It appears the recommendations to increase density were made by the City of Vancouver in its November 6, 2024 letter to comply with House Bill 1220, Affordable to Below Market Income Households, stating that roughly 15,000 units are needed in Vancouver urban growth area. While discussing growth, the sticky point becomes how. Washington State requires elements to be in place before growth: roads, water, sewer, stormwater, transit, fire, police, schools, etc. In the areas along Northwest 11th and 179th between 11th and 50th, as I've shared, these elements do not exist today or do not appear to be sufficient. I'm asking Council to follow growth management requires and ensure adequate infrastructure in place before development continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That concludes public comment.
Okay. All right. Moving on to old business, minutes of January 7th, 2026. Are there any changes? Corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Moving on to new business. I believe this is a Jordan item, Lunar New Year proclamation request.
Yes, good afternoon, Council. For the record, Jordan Bogie, Senior Policy Analyst. Have a proclamation request here to you from the Vietnamese community of Clark County. As you'll recall, last year, the Council did do a Lunar New Year proclamation and like to do one again. This year, Lunar New Year's occurs on February 17th, which conveniently aligns with a council meeting, which also is slated to occur on the evening of February 17th. And so would present this proclamation to council to see if you are in support of it, and if so, who might like to read it.
Okay, thank you. One thing I had mentioned to you, Jordan, I don't know if you had a chance to get back to them, but if they have an event or something that's planned in proximity, if they wanted to include another whereas that would mention that, I'd be supportive of that.
Sure thing. Yeah, I have not been able to get back in touch with Min yet from the VCC. But when I hear back from them, I can definitely include that. Or if council would like to give direction to approve, and then if they'd like to include, they did also invite council. They have an event on the 21st, which I think is the following Saturday at Geyser Hall at Clark College, celebrating Lunar New Year as well.
Great. And I'm planning to attend that. So I'd be a thumbs up to approve. And if they wanted to add something about their event, I think that could happen as well without bringing it back to us. I think thumbs up all around. Councilor Belcott did. Yep, thumbs up there too. Okay. And who would like to read this one?
I did read it last year, but I would
Like to
love
read it
to read
again?
it again. Yes, just given the heritage of my spouse and my kids. So thank you.
Great. That sounds good. Okay. Councilor reports.
I just have one really quick. Both Chair Marshall and I sit on the CTRAN Board of Directors. Just a really quick update of what we decided on yesterday. One is we will be reconvening the BCRC. I always forget what the acronym stands for. And that'll happen at the next CTRAN board meeting, the second Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. I don't believe it's been noticed yet, but it will soon shortly. In addition, I was elected as the vice chair of the CTRAN Board of Directors yesterday. So other than that, that's all I have.
Great. I just add that Bart Hansen was elected as the chair. So
Thank you.
congratulations to
To
both
both of
of
us.
you. Any other counselor reports?
Yes, I
Go
do,
ahead.
Chair. Bear with me. I have several today. I did want to update the council on today's Wednesday. So yes, yesterday's ECHO meeting. It was a very productive meeting. We got a lot accomplished actually on some things that we've been working on for some significant amount of time. One is that the RFP, we formally approved the language in the RFP. And just a quick reminder, we are looking at all jurisdictions sharing the cost of paying for a study that will look at the entirety of our system, that will be looking for gaps and increased efficiencies and policy alignment and those kinds of things. So we got that accomplished. We had a good conversation with jail staff. Thanks to them for coming. We're going to be discussing that some more in the future in terms of how the jail fits into the whole system as a whole. We have a panel coming up in April that will be a law enforcement panel. It's going to be from law enforcement, both admin and boots on the ground representation from each of the jurisdictions in the county. So we'll hear from them on their processes, essentially, and how they choose to, or how their process in terms of how they handle situations when the individuals are homeless, and specifically camping and ordinances of that nature, and looking at that from the law enforcement side. And then I think we'll be having a larger conversation on when, if who they decide to bring to jail, and then who the jail accepts. So it's going to be a long conversation unfolding over the coming months, but we look forward to that in April. And it looks like several people from our local delegation are planning to attend that as well. So looking forward to that. Urban County Policy Board was on Monday. We kind of kicked the can down the road on the CMAR building, and I'll just leave it at that we're going to be bringing it back, for hoping for more information from CMAR in March. Parks, we had another meeting last week on the Parks Task Force, and we heard from more cities on how their park situation looks like. And actually tomorrow we have another meeting where the county will present on our parks program and how it is, and where we are headed, and where we have challenges and struggles, just like all the other jurisdictions. So that process is moving along very well. And I also was able to attend the celebration of life for Paul Christensen, who is an anchor in the Vancouver community, very heavily involved in philanthropy. That was really his true heart, was philanthropy. And I've been working with his loved ones, and may come to you in the future with a resolution, just like we did like a couple weeks ago. So can't say enough about the individual. He was a wonderful man. He had his hands in everything in the city in a positive way. So it was a great experience to be there. And the last thing, I just want to give a shout out and thanks to leadership Clark County. They gave myself and Councilor Fuentes an opportunity to participate in some of their activities, and it was fun to see people that are interested in civic engagement and be able to give them our perspective of how it is a little bit behind the scenes. So shout out to them, and thank you for that process, for the invitation, and for the leadership they helped prepare for our community. And that's it.
I'll just add that we did 5 rounds that are sharing our experiences campaigning and as elected officials, and each round it changed.
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other counselor have a report? Okay. I just wanted to follow up on something that Kimberly brought up, and that is that the first meeting of the Charter Review Commission is going to be here at 5 o'clock. So Michelle reminded me we need to wrap things up by 4 o'clock, which I think we can do, but I don't know. Okay, so work session requests.
So the first one is actually on the regional parks funding update and the task force. I'm not sure if council wants to have a work session on this. It says that council asked for it, but it's just to get an update. There's no direction. But I know Councilor Young just provided an update, so I don't know if that's sufficient now or if council wants to still have an informal update from staff at a work session.
I would welcome an update. I don't know what the timing is, or if we wait a little while, there'll be more information, but I'd be curious to see how that's progressing.
This was council request, correct?
That's what's written. I don't
Okay.
recall that.
I would say we wait just a little bit because we had spent this entire time up to this point looking at all of the different jurisdictions, their park system. And I think we're starting to turn that corner now where we're going to be looking at funding strategy. So I think it would be best to wait a little bit on that, but it's up to the council.
Yeah, I would agree too. I'm also on that task force, but if you'd like, Chair, you could attend that tomorrow's session. If it worked for your schedule instead of me, then we wouldn't have to notice it. I've been pretty abreast of what's the latest, and they are still compiling information and how other jurisdictions do it. And there's a whole slate of options, and I don't think they're to the point of presenting those options to us yet.
I might be interested. I guess I didn't remember that we had a task force and the two of you are on that. It wasn't on, was that on our list of, it's just extra. When would that meeting be? Or you can let me know.
Like 4 or 4:30 or something like that.
Today?
Tomorrow.
No, tomorrow. Okay. Well, I'll check with Michelle on that. Okay. So yes, but maybe not right away.
Okay, so maybe I'll look to Councilor Young's leadership to tell us when a good time would be to get in front of council.
Sure. And I'll
Does that work?
continue to bring it up each council report.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so we'll pause on that one. And then community planning, additional comp plan, work session request, Councilor Young and Little.
Okay, I can kick it off. Councilor Young, I think, has a separate work session request, but mine is related to requests we had before to talk about the TDR program, which we approved about a year ago. At the Planning Commission last week, on Thursday, there was presented by the city of Ridgefield a concept of how we could actually kick off of the beginning of a TDR program through a interlocal agreement with a city or cities. And they're both in part of the public record of last Thursday's meeting. If the public wants to look at it, there's a document that kind of lays out how it would work and an example interlocal agreement. And I was hoping we could do a work session, possibly a joint work session with the jurisdictions we could potentially be doing the interlocal agreement with and with legal counsel to kind of learn just how it would work, just the logistics of how interlocal agreement could be used to put a conditional use on a property that may be brought into the urban growth boundary, and in return there'd be a TDR credit associated with it. As I understand, we wouldn't have to necessarily create the sending areas yet for the areas of farmland that would be protected. But the agreement with the city would be the starting point for a program that could be expanded and developed over time. And we wouldn't have to figure out everything then. But because I don't know the details of it, and it was presented by the city, I would love to have a work session as soon as we could to get into the details of how that actually would work.
So if I can just clarify too, this request was not regarding that. It was regarding the work session request that you brought up last week, so that request has not been noticed for today's meeting. But council, I believe, did approve a work session for this year on TDRs last year. So that's already, we're already looking at getting that scheduled of what it looks like, what the program could do. It wasn't tied specifically to the city of Richfield's presentation.
Yeah, so I'm modifying the request that we had to just be a specific focus of the interlocal agreement
Okay.
and how that would start.
And I would highly recommend that we add that to next week's council time because it was not noticed. So therefore the community has not had a chance to weigh in.
Right.
as
And
well.
I would say we would need two counselors to agree to that.
If,
Go ahead.
If I could comment on that, that is specifically why I put the language on there, which was community planning additional comp plan work request. Is because I didn't know exactly what we were going to have.
Yeah, I think we changed the title simply because the last week
Right.
we took the subject line on the email that you guys sent requesting it. And so based on, I think it was Councilor Little's comments, I think is why staff changed that name because the Councilor Little didn't like the title of the last one, but that was on the email. So, but it was based on the email that I forwarded to council that Councilor Little and Councilor Fuentes or Young had looked at.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, the content is okay. I can get that. So at this point, I mean, I would definitely be a second on putting that on the agenda then.
Okay, so TDR work session has already been approved by council.
Yeah, but I think this is a little bit different. This is looking at expediting the process and trying to understand what the city had recommended and seeing if that's a possibility to include in this year's comp plan update. So I think it falls outside of the process that we had already initiated.
It is within the comp plan process, and I think that's where this becomes very complicated and difficult. And as I recall, the TDR conversation from quite a while back is that, well, we already have something on the books related to TDRs, but a program hasn't really been implemented, and that it was not something that we would bring up during the comp plan update because we didn't have enough time to really thoroughly do that. So that was my recollection.
Chair.
Yes.
That's what I recall as well. But I do want to clarify something, Councilor Little. In your modification of this work session, you're asking to expedite it because the city of Richfield is proposing utilizing transfer of development rights as part of their comp plan. Is that what I'm hearing?
They give an example of how we could actually kick off the TDR program within this comp plan period. So
Okay.
that's why I wanted to look into the details of how that would work specifically so we could learn
Okay.
if
But-
that's possible or not.
Okay, and that's fine. I only ask because I think one of the recommendations from the Ag Commission, from the gentleman who did a presentation, he was in support of TDRs, but at the county level versus the individual jurisdictional level, which I would support at the county level as opposed to having each jurisdiction kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah, and what was proposed would be an interlocal agreement would be how it gets started. And then next year we could create the area of farmland that would be considered for credits. We could determine which types of developments would be associated, even historical. You could even use credits for affordable housing, for protecting historical structures. All that can be developed later, but this is how it would potentially get started. It wouldn't be the end of the program. It would be the beginning of it. And so I just wanted to hear more details of how that would work.
Do we need 2 or 3 to have a work session?
You need 2 to put it on an agenda. You need 3 to approve.
Okay, well, we have 2, and I think it would be worthwhile to have this notice so the public broadly would be able to comment on this at that time. So I think there's 3, so it can move forward. So it'll be on the agenda next week as a request. Okay. Now oh, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say the actual one that was posted to the agenda, at least I think.
There might be another one.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So what I would like to do is, we had the ag study done. And, WAC and RCW specifies specific things that should be studied. And there are three things that are overarching criteria that are more absolute, but there are multiple discretionary criteria that actually the language is should be used and considered. What I would like to do, the way that, and I'm not, pointing any blame by any means, because this process has been as quick as it possibly can, and sometimes maybe some things got missed, but essentially the other criteria that were not studied really are a policy choice as to whether we choose to weigh them and how much weight we give to them. And that the way the process went with the study, it was really the Agricultural Advisory Commission along with the consultant that made those decisions, and it really should have been a council level decision. But being where we are at this point in time, we have not studied those things, and I believe it is our due diligence to at least look at those and determine if we would place any weight and how much weight we would place on them. And so what I would envision at this point would be a work session that would be staff, showing us the parcels that the cities have requested to have added to their urban growth boundary, and the ability to look closer at those individual parcels, especially the ones that are zoned agricultural, and so that we can look at evaluation of those other criteria that are more discretionary.
Sounds site specific to me, and we really need to have a countywide ag study. So the same criteria applies to all parcels. But Chris, you may want to weigh in here.
Yeah, I would agree with your comment. You can't just look at criteria as they apply to parcels for which there is a proposal that they be added. That's number one. Number two is I hope that you are aware that every single one of the criteria was considered in the ag study, every single one.
It was considered whether or not to be studied. I disagree with you on that,
Yeah.
Chris.
Okay.
And I would say that, if you can't look at something site specific, then why would they even have these criteria? Because you have to look site specific in order to determine if a property is characterized by urban.
Counselor, I did not make up the rules. I did not write the legislation, nor did I vote for it. So why it is not something I can help you with, but that it is, that it exists, that is a requirement is correct.
Right. We did not look at those. And so that is my suggestion for a work session, is that we can have staff come forward and we can look at and evaluate based on that criteria.
So one of the criteria, for example, is proximity to urban growth areas. They actually mapped distance from urban growth areas throughout the entire county and said, well, based on this, virtually the entire county is within a reasonably short distance, and certainly all of the parcels that are of interest to Ridgefield and La Center, they're all within a proximity, a relatively short proximity to urban growth areas. if they're all like that, as I understand, the study concluded, then they don't make much difference.
I would just fall back on process. If there are two, I think this as well would need to be if there are two counselors who want to move forward with this work session, it needs to be on the agenda for next week because it's not clear what this even means.
I would say on this one, it's a little more not as clear, but because it was a continuation of the discussion from last week's request. And I believe both counselors wanted to hear the information from Thursday night's planning commission meeting to solidify what they actually wanted to move forward with. So that's why it was moved to this week from last week.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add and confirm that this was a continuation of the exact same request as before. I'm more interested in, just because this is such a big decision, to have more information about the city proposals. I just have some examples, like in Ridgefield, there was a urban reserve created in, I believe, 1994. I'd like to know a little bit more about the history of it. I'd also like to know a little bit more about the battleground proposed swap that I just don't know much information about, whether we might be trading, whether it's a positive or negative of what the trade is and how developed the land that's being swapped is for the land that in public comment, there is some concerns about the natural features. And then just another example is between Camas and Washougal, we heard from a landowner that they're holding some land so that it could be potentially developed, but that they could potentially develop it now, but they're holding out for a decision from us. And these are just things that I've heard little snippets of. And I just feel like for due diligence, I would like to know more about all of these properties as much as possible to zoom in on them. The more information, the better, I believe.
Chris, did you have something?
Yeah, Counselor, let me talk to you a little bit about urban reserve. At the meeting on Thursday, the representative, the city manager of the city of Ridgefield stated, well, this is already characterized by urban growth. It's urban reserve. Whoa, that's just so wrong. It's remarkable. Urban reserve is outside the urban growth area. It is not zoned for urban development. Urban development is not allowed there. It's not characterized by urban growth. Urban reserve is, it's a leftover from 1994 when people were wondering, you know, what's going to happen in the future. Some areas were given an urban reserve designation, but again, it means nothing as far as what's allowed to be developed. And in 2017, the Growth Board ruled that our urban reserve area was actually agricultural, where it's zoned agricultural. So it's ag land if it's ag land. It's R5 if it's R5. Urban reserve essentially doesn't mean much of anything.
Yeah, very helpful. You're proving the point that we could use more information, because you just provided very important information that I did not know. So that is why I'd like to have a work session to drill down a little bit more so that we have full understanding of the decisions we're making.
Okay, thank you. I would just at this time really, really encourage everyone, if you have not read the ag study, please read that carefully. There's justifications for what they studied. And also, very informative is issue paper 1 on agricultural land and the history of litigation going way back. Those will be very helpful.
Chair.
Yes.
And I would just say, I agree with you that there was justification, but was a policy decision that should have been made by the council.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to at this moment.
Well, for example, I know that they specifically excluded and did not look into did not consider parcel size. For one, did not consider intensity of nearby land uses. So they made decisions on whether or not to study that information, and that was a policy decision.
If you go back to the history and look when they initially identified ag land way back, read through that, because at that time they did not consider soils, because the assumption was all of the soils are good for agriculture. So it's worthwhile going back in the history to understand how we got to this point. But let's go forward with this work session. I think we can drill down as much as you want on any of these issues related to the comp plan. It will not make the decisions easier. And it will not change the Growth Management Act.
I agree with you, but it will make our decisions more informed.
Chair.
Yes, please go ahead.
I just have a quick question for Chris. And thank you for sharing a little bit of insight on how the UGA and urban reserves should function or do function. Just to clarify, within the UGA, it can be urbanized, correct?
Within the urban growth area,
Right.
yes, that's the definition of urban.
Right.
It's in the urban growth area.
So I knew that. I
Yeah.
reviewed the GMA. And so my question to you, I know and I understand the urban reserves are not zoned for urban development. However, I guess my clarification point that I want answered is, are urban reserves set aside to expand the UGA? No. Okay.
I think that might have been
'Cause in
an
Oregon, it is.
initial concept,
Mhm.
but this is really different from Oregon, where they have a statewide definition
Mhm.
and function, or at least a metro-wide definition and function. That is not the case in Washington.
Okay. Okay. And that, yeah, thank you for clarifying, because you're right. In Oregon, they have the urban growth boundaries and urban reserves that can be brought into the urban growth boundary when it's ready to be developed. Got it. Thank you.
Right. Just a note, also in the Portland metro area, they have rural reserves in addition to urban reserves.
Right next to the urban growth boundary.
Often they are.
Yep.
Okay.
So Chair, I do want to confirm we have 3 that are supportive of this. Okay. And then if I can also, I just want to summarize what staff should be prepared for. So it's looking at the site-specific request just along the urban growth boundary, or the ones that the cities are requesting, or is it all of them?
My intent was just the ones that the cities are looking at.
Okay, and to review that, just pulling it up, talking about the, what it currently is zoned as, what the request is. What else more specifically?
Yeah, and then, I mean, I think it probably could begin with a conversation on us looking at the different criteria, discussing them, determining whether that's something we want to evaluate, whether it's, how much weight we would place on that, on whether we would consider de-designation of any agricultural land. And then we look at each property individual, and then we go through those things that we've decided should be considered and have discussion on it. Obviously, we're not making any decisions at this time, but it's just to have a discussion on it.
Okay, so it's reviewing the criteria in the WAC for ag study, and then applying that criteria to those site-specific requests that the cities have requested to pull into their urban growth area.
Correct.
Okay, anything else? I want to make sure staff's
And then
prepared.
just,
Sorry.
I just want to make sure too that it's not just the ag land that we're looking at. Of course, the ag study lens part of it goes for that land. But I think I agree, just having a really much up close and personal look at all the property that they're requesting.
What do you mean by up close and personal look? At the
Well, I
property?
mean, I know that maps, online maps are not perfect because they don't give us we don't know exactly the date that the image was taken, but going through the GIS and, looking at each parcel, looking at the aerial view, discussing what is currently zoned, what the character is of it currently, just so that we can understand the nature of that land. I think Wendy Cleveland's comment, it was very relevant to this, when we're talking about doing swaps. What is the true character of the land that is currently in their urban growth boundary, and what is the nature of what they're swapping to? I know that certain things, the character of the land is what I'm trying to understand. I don't know if that's
A satellite image would be helpful, but
yeah,
better than a map.
correct.
Do we want to look at any upzoning?
I'd say we save that for another day.
Okay.
Okay, so you're wanting us to pull up a Google satellite image if it's available, not knowing when that image was taken versus the GIS map or both and the characteristics. Because I know in December, before you guys were on board, the cities did present all of their requests to council in a public meeting on the requests on the properties and went over that, because we're going to be, I'm assuming that staff's going to take that information that they presented, and they have stuff in writing. All of that's on our website. I know I've sent it to council. So I just want to make sure we're not missing something, because I mean, if it sounds like it's more the satellite image, because we've looked at the GIS information. We know what it's zoned. We know what they're requesting.
Well, I think if
Unless
nothing
it's
else,
compared to
it
the ag.
could serve as a reminder. I mean, we have been bombarded with information, and it's easy to forget details like that. So I think having satellite image and going through each one will help kind of solidify in our minds what the property is like.
Yeah, and I know this is sounding complicated, and we don't want a complicated presentation. I would prefer this information being out there, but then we have a discussion about each one, so we can ask questions like the one that Chris just helped us.
All the information is out there now. There's actually a site-specific link that you can go in, and there's an interactive map where you can click on the dot and it pulls up all the information.
This is also for public participation, so
We
they
did this-
understand.
We also did this
side
in a
by side.
we did this in a
Well, either
public,
way, that's just what I'm asking for.
we did this in a public meeting as well.
And the map is posted,
Yeah.
so the public can
It's,
get into it and use it also.
I know many members of the public that have gone on there. I've gone on there. It's really easy. Click on the dot and a whole bunch of information comes up about that particular site. I do have a question, though, about what you were referring to as far as upzoning decisions.
Where the decisions that we have to approve at the end about different upzonings from different R classifications, like up to R50, whether we want to review those in the now or in the future specifically.
Across the county or just related to those cities?
Glenn would know more.
Yeah, I would say what I'm interested in, and I've been working with staff to try to get some of this information to better understand, like we're taking certain zones and we're upzoning them to different things. I'm just trying to get a better handle on which zones are being, upzoned to what, and then a look at the level of density minimums, maximums, and then what the vacant buildable lands model projects in terms of number of units that we will actually eventually get out of those. I don't know. I'm still having that conversation with staff. It may be, unless there's other counselors that are interested in hearing that, I may be able to get all my answers just that way, just through
I
staff.
think the entire council needs to understand what information is out there. So you're looking at all of the cities and the county.
No, just the county, basically urban growth areas.
Within the county or the city? Are you wanting to review the cities
No,
and their
not
upzoning?
cities. No,
Okay,
no,
okay.
just ours.
So it'd be primarily Vancouver's urban growth
Yeah.
area. Got it.
Thank
Got it.
you.
Okay, that may be another work session. I'm thinking
Okay.
it could be.
okay.
All right. Have we-
So, yeah, I don't know if it's helpful, and please tell me if it's not, but I will send everybody links to everything online, because I think And I know I've done it in the past too, but just to put all of the information to help, I think, be more efficient when staff comes, because I think their only change is aerial photos and maybe pulling up the ag study and how the criteria was for your discussion. But all the other information is out there. So I'm going to send you links to that, including the maps, the white papers that the cities proposed, which included details about what their requests were in writing, as well as the presentation and all the discussions that have happened, because it's a lot of good information. I know it takes time to review. I know there's a lot of information, so it's hard. We miss stuff. I mean, there's a lot that you guys are dealing with, but it is there. And I think that is going to be helpful in guiding your conversation. So we're not having to redo work sessions that we've had previously.
Right. And we did have a work session on the ag study where the consultants presented. So maybe reminding us how to get to that link if we want to look at that again. Now that we know more now than we did when we first heard that. Okay. Now I have a couple of work session requests that apologize for not getting them on the agenda, and maybe it's just to suggest if there's support for them, they could be posted next week. But one of them relates to CTRAN. At the board meeting last night, one issue that came up was the possibility of forming a sub-district that could relate to mass transit. And there wasn't time at the CTRAN board meeting to really get a briefing on that. But I would like to have a work session where we can invite CTRAN to talk to us about sub-district. I know when the Columbia River crossing was being considered sub-district, but there was a county-wide district that was proposed related to mass transit. But this one might be looking at a smaller area like just the city of Vancouver or the Vancouver and its growth boundary. But this is just to provide an opportunity for us to understand what that is, because it could be something that comes up at the next CTRAN board meeting. And if there's an opportunity for this council to provide input on pros and cons to inform those of us that represent you on the CTRAN board, that would be helpful. Okay, so on the agenda for next week, and I think having it just at some point before the next CTRAN board meeting would be helpful.
So I would recommend then that counts, because it is time sensitive, which is one of the criteria. I would recommend that council decide today, so that we've already got work sessions booked so that we can have time to move things around, because we only have 3 meetings between now and then.
Okay, so thumbs up.
Okay.
Thumbs
thank
up
you.
all around.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, just informational. And then the other one, and I believe this request came to all the council from Friends of Camp Bonneville and some people associated with Friends of Camp Bonneville. And they have been asking for some time to hold a work session so they could more thoroughly cover their concerns. So I just, I don't know that this one is time sensitive. I know there will be the contract coming back related to the FBI. I imagine they would like to have the opportunity to talk to the council in advance of that. So I don't know when that is scheduled.
So the draft contract should be before you get a council time within the next 2 weeks.
Next
They're just finalizing some of the changes based on council's direction. And then after that, then it will come back, if the majority of the council is supportive, it'll come back on a Tuesday meeting for the final consideration.
Okay. And the scope of issues that they were interested in is the conservation, conveyance, cleanup efforts, periodic review, conservation management of the property, and law enforcement issues. And I was thinking 30 minutes might be adequate for that, if there is interest in accommodating Friends of Camp Bonneville.
Chair, would that be a a work session request. Who would be presenting to us? I had requested previously a work session on cleanup updates from ecology, which I think we still haven't scheduled. So that would be one of the things that I think they discussed.
This would be hearing directly from the Friends of Camp Bonneville.
What would the format of that be? Just, I mean, are they just going to be asking questions and we're responding? And
I think they'll be telling us their opinions about things. They might have some questions or directives they want to suggest, but at work sessions, information comes to us. They've been frustrated with the 3-minute limitation, although if you add up all those 3 minutes that we've heard from the Friends of Camp Bonneville, it's pretty lengthy. But I think we have in the past heard from Friends of Vancouver Lake. So because it's a request that's come up over and over, I wanted just to provide that opportunity if the council is willing to have a work session where they could present their concerns.
And Chair, are you requesting that approval today because you see this as being a timing issue, or are you asking to put this on next week's agenda for consideration?
I think the request would be for it to be time sensitive. But I rely on this entire council to help make the decision.
so my concern with that would be if I do want to hold this, work session with them, but I want the time to be spent on Camp Bonneville as a whole issue. And my concern is if we try to put this before the FBI contract, it becomes just that.
What is the precedent again for having a group come present to us in a work session?
Friends of Vancouver Lake came,
Okay.
and I don't know if there's been other groups that have come forward.
The only other group that that I can recall is when we're talking about mining, and we had the industry come, and that was probably 7 years ago.
Okay, I would be supportive of a work session request for being put on the schedule next week. I think the TDR interlocal agreement is very timely, but we're putting that off till for 1 week.
Okay.
So
Okay. I think that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And maybe we have a chance to flesh out a little bit more in depth on what the format would look like and how we carry the meeting.
That sounds good. I would offer myself to work with the county manager and Friends of Camp Bonneville to figure that out. Okay, thumbs up. It'll be on the agenda as a discussion item for your approval to move forward with an actual work session. Thank you. Okay, moving on with our, I think that does it for work sessions. Let's move on to policy updates. Jordan, I see you're back on the screen.
Good afternoon, Council. Jordan again. Yes, so first item I have for you today, 8.1, is related to the cryptocurrency ATM issue. And so just to kind of recap for Council, I think last time we discussed this in November, and Council had given some direction for me to do a little bit of research and come back to you with a recommendation after talking to some folks in the PA's office and doing a little bit of digging into kind of the scope of this issue. And so to recap, Council got this letter from the prosecuting attorney's office back in the fall regarding the use and proliferation of these cryptocurrency ATM machines in the county, and the fact that they are being consistently used to scam people out of money. And so really how this happens is so these cryptocurrency companies, cryptocurrency ATM companies, they pay a small fee to a gas station, convenience store, whoever, to allow them to put a cryptocurrency ATM on the property. And you can use these ATMs legitimately, right? You can, if you have, Bitcoin or Dogecoin or whatever other kind of cryptocurrency that is out there, you can exchange those for cash. However, these cryptocurrency ATMs are being used to scam, particularly older folks, at a pretty high rate, and we are seeing millions of dollars in losses to people who are getting scammed out of money due to these cryptocurrency ATMs. And how it happens is, a scammer will call someone. Often these are older residents who maybe are a little bit more vulnerable or don't have quite a deep understanding of how these alternative currencies work. And they might call and say, hey, and they would go and look at public records. They might say, we know you have a relative in prison. We need money for them for XYZ reason. And they'll scam people, out of often, several $100s or more at a time. And once the money is gone through these cryptocurrency ATMs, it's basically impossible to track, because you're sending this currency that it's not tied to like a bank account or something like that, where you can easily track that. And so as part of this, it's hard to pin down an exact number of losses, but it is, in looking in the millions of dollars, even in Southwest Washington. And there is a sense, I had some conversations with Eric Pedora from the prosecuting attorney's office, as well as Detective Gabriel Patterson from Vancouver's property crimes department. And the sense is that, people are embarrassed or they're afraid because of how they were scammed. And so the sense is that there's a lot of underreporting that's happening with these cryptocurrency ATMs. There are a couple of big companies that own most of these cryptocurrency ATMs, Bitcoin Depot and CoinFlip. And these companies have been sued in other states. Both Iowa and Maine have sued these companies. And the investigation in Iowa in particular was pretty eye-opening. Found that over 98% of the money that Iowans reported sending through Bitcoin Depot and 95% of the CoinFlip transactions were scam transactions. So we are looking at, when law enforcement has investigated these issues, the vast majority of what these ATMs are being used for is scam transactions. And most of the victims of these crimes are 60 and older. And so places have started banning these ATMs. The city of Spokane is a big example, and they have they've banned these. I think the city of Albany in Oregon has also banned these. I know in some of the previous conversations that had been had, the city of Vancouver is also looking at this issue. I think they're a little bit behind where we are in terms of looking into the issue. And really talking to the PA's office and Detective Patterson, their recommendation to council would be that these are ATMs that are mostly being used for criminal activities, and that it would serve a public safety purpose to not allow them in Clark County. There are more legitimate ways of sending cryptocurrency. There are online platforms you can convert, if you have an alternative currency into cash and link your bank account, and then put the money into your bank account and withdraw through a typical bank ATM, which is a safer way to do that, that is trackable, and is not as prone to scams. And so, given all that information, given their recommendation, it really sounds like there is some interest in moving forward with potentially trying to ban these in the county. And so given that information today, from what I've heard from them, it does seem like this is a real issue that, some of our vulnerable residents should be worried about. And so today, I would open it up for discussion, questions from council here, and ultimately would want to see if council is interested in providing direction on us putting together an ordinance that would ban these cryptocurrency ATMs in the county. And if so, we would work on that and then bring that back to you at a subsequent council time. And then obviously any final decision would be an ordinance that would require council approval and a public hearing and all that.
Okay, thank you. And I just like to note that this was an issue that came to the EJC, and I think both Diana Perez, who serves on that committee, has taken it to the city of Vancouver, and I brought it to your attention. So thank you for all of this work, and thanks to Eric for putting all this information together. But I'd like to hear from the council.
Chair. I'm definitely supportive of moving forward and bringing it forward for a hearing for sure. The one thing I'm concerned with, to me, it seems like this is a no-brainer. It really does, but I'm concerned because I know so little about the subject that we might be missing something. So I don't know where we can go to try to find people that would advocate for why that would be a public benefit to allowing these to continue. I just want to make sure that we have the entirety of the discussion when we have the decision in front of us.
Thank you. And maybe there's something to learn from the city of was it the city or the county of Spokane?
City of Spokane.
City of Spokane. And how long have they had their ban in place? Do we know that?
City of Spokane ban. It was in June.
Just of
this year.
2025. So they don't really have a long track record, but maybe we could get some initial information from them.
Yeah, and I know that that they were compelled to do that. They had heard from their local police folks as well, and I think perhaps even some federal folks that were aware of some scams that had been happening in the city of Spokane.
And this would, if we did something like this, it would be applicable for our jurisdiction, which would largely be the urban unincorporated area. And all of the cities have their own jurisdictions and will be doing whatever they like. Go ahead.
Yeah, Chair, as Councillor Young mentioned, I also would like to hear the legitimate uses of these ATMs and what the alternatives might be for some of the people who are using them for legitimate purposes. I don't know if they can go to the bank to do similar transactions. Would just like to learn a little bit more in the hearing process. And then just a kind of related, can a county ban anything? What, I'm just curious. I was thinking about plastic bag bans and stuff. Like, what type of bans can a county do? Chris, is it? I'm just curious.
It's interesting. There was a while when the county had a moratorium on, for example, the sale of cannabis in the county. So you can ban some things. And Jordan has provided examples of where there have been bans previously. I don't know whether Jordan spoke to anyone in those jurisdictions about that consideration. That was something that was going through my mind also. What if we banned blue ink or, whatever? And the answer is, gee, I don't know. And I asked Jordan when it came to our office to work with the EJC attorneys, Eric Pedora and others, if needed, to come up with this. So I haven't spoken with them. I haven't spoken with Jordan about this since that time.
There is an EJC meeting tomorrow afternoon, so we'll probably be chatting about this. So I think,
and that's an interesting question. I think to what extent is the county allowed to say, not in our yard?
And as much as I understand of any of this, these transactions can occur online, and I think that's why it is the vulnerable population is the older population that would go to these physical ATMs. But I'm for moving forward, getting more information, and yes, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
got the thumbs up, but I had one more question. So up to this point, I didn't realize, and maybe it's not, but something you said earlier made me, I mean, when we talk about ATMs, do they dispense cash?
So I think if you were able to link, I think mostly what is happening in these situations is people are putting cash into the ATM
Into,
and
okay,
then they are converting that into a cryptocurrency. That
okay,
cryptocurrency is being
understood.
sent to the scammer.
That helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay, I think there's thumbs up. Counselor Belcott, did you have a thumb up on this one to pursue this and bring it back to us, and we'll see about a resolution. Thanks for that thumb, Counselor Belcott.
Wonderful. Thank you, counselors. I will talk to the lawyers over there at the EJC and our PA's office and start putting together some of that information for you and see what we can do to get a list of some of the uses that are more legitimate, as well as some examples and what the statutory authority is. I was looking here at the at the Spokane ordinance, and they cite RCW 3522-280, which is the authority to make regulations necessary for the preservation of public morality, health, peace, and good order within city limits. So I'm not sure, that may not apply directly to counties, but I'll look into that with our legal folks.
Thank you. I think we're moving on to legislative updates.
Wonderful. So a few updates for you today. So the first item I'd like to talk with you about is House Bill 1717. And this is one of the bills that we discussed with our lobbyist on Monday. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is that it has a hearing tomorrow. So it's a little bit timely if council would like to take a position on it. And so House Bill 1717 is a sales tax remittance bill for affordable housing. And so I know council was a little bit interested in the bill, but wanted to do a little bit more research and look into this before making a decision. So I did a little bit of digging into the bill. I wanted to be able to summarize it accurately for you today to see if you would like to take a position. And if so, we could log in as supportive or opposed, or neither tomorrow as council desires. And so what this bill would do is it allows counties and cities to create an affordable housing sales tax remittance program. And so that means that if the bill passed, cities and counties would be allowed to create this program. And in this program, developers could apply to get a remittance back on the sales and use tax they pay as part of an affordable housing development. And so it's specific to projects that are basically they are affordable and that are going to be affordable for a term of 50 years. And so basically, with this program in place, developers would pay the sales tax, on the project. Then, once the, they were approved as, their project meets the requirements, they would get 50% of the sales and use tax that they paid back. The other 50% of that sales and use tax would go back to the county, and the county would be able to use that remittance money to acquire, rehabilitate, or build affordable housing, which might include new units of affordable housing or facilities providing supported housing services, to acquire real property for future affordable housing development, to fund operations and maintenance cost of new units of affordable or permanent supportive housing, or to support the operation and delivery of behavioral health treatment programs and services. Funds could also be used to support a qualifying project under the remittance program. If we use general fund revenues to basically support administration of the program, the county could compensate itself back with some of those funds, so to pay the administrative costs of running the program if we use general funds for that purpose. And eligible cities and counties could enter interlocal agreements to combine funds from this remittance program. So essentially, in a nutshell, if this bill passes, cities and counties would be allowed to create this remittance program. Eligible projects would get half of the sales tax they paid, both state and local. The first 6.5%, as you'll recall, of the sales tax goes to the state. The rest goes to local governments. So they would get half of the tax they paid. The county would get the other half to go towards supporting these other programs. It does look like it is an optional program, so the county would not have to implement the program, but could if they so chose. And it looks like the state will evaluate by 2033 how many new units they've built under this program. And essentially, if the juice isn't worth the squeeze, the intent of the legislature would be to repeal this, because really it's a tax preference for affordable housing programs. And so that's money that the state is foregoing, and local governments to an extent, although if we're getting half of the sales tax back, it's likely that would come back to the county. We'd be getting a decent chunk of money back, but it would have to be used for specifically affordable housing purposes.
Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to clarify, this isn't a tax increase. It's based on the existing rates, so that if a $40 million, actually, let me backtrack a little bit. Does this program apply to any housing development project, or does it apply to affordable housing projects that are being built, where we would that would be taxed on whatever it is that they spend money on, and then we'd get half of that back? Is that correct? Is that how that works?
That is correct. So I can read through. Basically, the projects would have to be set aside primarily for affordable housing or mixed use affordable housing development, and then the applicant who would receive the remittance commits to renting or selling at least 50% of the units to low income households for a minimum of 40 years. The applicant commits to any additional affordability and income eligibility conditions adopted by the local government. So this would come down to the local program design. The project is or will be, at the time of completion, in conformance with all local plans and regulations. The area has to be zoned for residential or mixed uses. And any other program requirements that are put in place are met.
Okay, so this doesn't apply to all housing development projects. It only applies to affordable housing projects.
Yeah, essentially. So if they meet the conditions
the
set
minimum
out here,
requirements,
then you can get half of the tax you paid back.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Do we know what the term affordability means here? Is it 60% AMI? Is it 80%?
It is. Let me look here at the bill's definitions section. Low income household means for non-rural counties, a single person, family, or unrelated persons living together whose adjusted income is at or below 80% of the median family income. So in this bill, low income household means 80% of AMI or less.
Okay. Just, 80% AMI is not really doing much. But this, I think we ought to look at this because, all this is doing is keeping local dollars local as opposed to it going to the state. So definitely be interested in this.
Go ahead, Councilor Little.
Yeah, I just trying to think of this through Kathleen's eyes, and I just want to get this straight. So it sounds like a tax break, which would be good for promoting affordable housing, but would essentially the county lose out on funds from the other 50% that would have been collected, and plus the cost of implementing the program, which might be a hit on the general fund?
So we would be able to use so any general fund dollars we could recoup through this program, but to the extent that we would be required by this bill to use the funds that the county gets for affordable housing purposes, there could be a hit to general fund potentially. But since that we're also getting half of the combined state and local sales tax, as I read this bill, the bill does not have a fiscal note, I don't believe yet. Let me double check. Because I think it's more of a loss to the state government. So they say that there's no fiscal impact to local governments in the fiscal note that they have here, and it is a loss to the state since they are losing they're losing all of the state sales tax, but we are getting the other 50% of the remittance program, and 50% would be going to that developer.
I would essentially, I would just want to make 100% clear on that so that we would be basically gaining the value from that state's tax locally versus giving up half of this local sales tax that would be otherwise collected and not restricted. Is that likely a correct interpretation?
That's how I read it. And I believe the sales tax in Clark County in unincorporated Clark County is 7.8%, and 6.5% of that is the state portion of the sales tax. So, that's basically the 1.3% is the local share of that, which is, less than half. And so it's probably going to be a net gain for the county in terms of the sales tax revenue.
Has Wasack taken a position on this?
I have not seen a Wasack position on this yet.
Yeah, I think I could be supportive of this at this time, and knowing that it could go through various iterations. I think early indication of support by a county could be helpful. And if 80% is not doing much, what percentage would you suggest, Councillor Young?
Well, I don't know if, the problem is each market is different. Like our AMI is skewed because we're lumped in with south of the river. And so, the AMI itself is inflated versus what our AMI is here in Clark County. So really 60% is where you start to see a true public benefit, meaning people are actually able to rent an apartment for less than market value. 80% is really close right there. Sometimes it might be market value, sometimes it's a little bit less, but it's never a lot less.
Okay, thank you. How do people feel about this?
I'm with you on this, Chair Marshall. I can support it. At the end of the day, whether it passes the legislature or it is not a requirement. This is an optional program that we could be part of.
Thank you. Other thoughts?
Chair,
Yes,
I'm going to
please.
abstain on this. I don't like that it doesn't have a fiscal note and it's in development. So I'd like to see something more advanced along the way with discussion. So
In the process. Okay,
Yes,
appreciate that. Yes, Councillor Little.
Yeah, I also would want to have more details before we take a public position at a hearing tomorrow. At least for me, that would be my vote not to.
So I would say, for me, I think it would be good to support this, just and saying that, you know, not all the details are ironed out, but what we're seeing right now, it's encouraging affordable housing. It's bringing some of the local tax dollars back local. I think there's some really good components of it. I do agree we don't know what the end all is with this bill, but I think, you know, if they're considering, I think it's important for them to see that people are seeing what they're doing and like some of the components of it and would consider supporting if it fleshes out right in the end.
Right. And we don't have to support or oppose. We could be neutral and just express our interest in this and potential support and maybe suggest the 60% AMI. So that could be an option as well.
Or it may be a flexibility in the AMI.
Some flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes, because we'd have to adopt this locally. Good idea. Other thoughts? Communicated at all? What you said tomorrow, Jordan, correct?
Yes, there is the hearing is tomorrow. So what I'm hearing from council is that you'd like to maybe sign in as other or neutral, but well, I guess it would really be as other with the note that we have a majority of council that is generally supportive of the program, but we would like to have some more flexibility or be able to look at a lower AMI for these projects.
Okay. Has Jordan captured our position?
I think so.
I think so too. Is there any other thumb up? Okay. And Councilor Belcott, recognizing you want to hold off on this, but I think we have 4 willing to just express interest without taking a position. Okay. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, councilors. A couple more bills I wanted to bring up for your attention today. So the second one is going to be Senate Bill 5820. And this in particular comes from the Railroad Advisory Board. They wrote a letter to council asking council to oppose Senate Bill 5820. And in particular, they have drafted a letter. And I'm not sure if we're able to put that up on the screen today or not. And the letter would be to Senator Cortez asking to oppose Senate Bill 5820. What Senate Bill 5820 does is it repeals the county's ability and the cities within the county to adopt development regulations on resource lands adjacent to short line railroads, or to include freight rail dependent uses on land adjacent to short line railroads, including freight rail dependent uses that don't require urban governmental services in rural lands. And so currently the county and our cities are able to put together development regulations on resource lands adjacent to the railroad. This was with the FRDU and that conversation. There was state legislation that enabled that to happen in the first place. This would repeal that ability to do it. The Railroad Advisory Board is against that and is asking that council come out against that and perhaps endorse their draft letter that they have put together opposing the bill. And so I would present that to council to see if that is something that you might be interested in doing.
I have a question. Does this repeal the FRDU in general or just remove Clark County?
So right now, Clark County is specifically called out, basically in the way that the state legislature does it, right? It's like, if there's a county with more than 400,000 people that touches the southern border of the state, basically the law is written in such a way that only Clark County can create these freight rail dependent use areas.
Oh, Okanogan County also.
And yes, and I guess Okanogan County is technically lumped in there, although I know I've talked to Oliver about this in the past, and they have not utilized this at all in Okanogan County. Um, but basically, it's a limited scope, and so this would repeal Clark County's ability to put these freight rail dependent use areas on the railroad line.
Go
But
ahead, Councilor Belcott.
I have a question. So would that affect our Chalachi lease? Would that make it so, I'm just thinking out loud here, if this were to go through, wouldn't that potentially impact that lease and our responsibility of the railroad? Maybe Chris can answer that, or Kathleen?
Counselor, to what lease are you referring?
The rail, well, with,
Oh, the railroad as a whole.
PVJR, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it wouldn't affect the ability of the county to lease the railroad to PVJR. It's about development that's adjacent to the railroad or that people think should be adjacent to it. And it's on specific land that has been designated for that. Does that help?
Yes, so I'm just trying to tease it a, they're not one and the same. Okay, so that makes more sense. All right, thank you.
I'm not altogether clear on that, having read that lease agreement. I would suggest on this one, though, that we not take a position. And if we wanted to discuss this further, it might be more appropriate in executive session.
I agree, Chair.
I agree.
Thank you. And I would just want staff to communicate to the Railroad Advisory Committee that we've received their letter, their draft letter. We appreciate their effort there, and that this is not a position. We are not taking a position, and therefore they, as a body, should not take a position. So I guess I'd leave it at that. Okay.
Thank you, Council.
If I may, I just wanted to say, so I appreciate the work that they do on that board, and I think them sending this recommendation is exactly what we've really asked them to do, and then it's up to us to consider the recommendation that they've given us. So, but yes, I do agree that, you know, it is the council's decision on what we will take a position on. They are always able to go in them individual selves and lobby for themselves personally, just not in representation of the county in any capacity, but do appreciate the work they do, and we do consider the recommendations they give us.
Yeah, but I just want to reiterate that they would not be representing the county or this council related to anything they individually may want to communicate. Okay. Is there anything else?
Thank you, Councilor. Just one more bill I wanted to mention today. This is kind of just coming out of the conversation that you all had with Commissioner Upthegrove and DNR folks this morning. I know he had mentioned that DNR was looking, they have some pieces of legislation that they are looking at to give them some more flexibility on how they manage public lands. And this bill is not currently scheduled for a hearing quite yet, so I think there's some time on this bill. But I wanted to just tee this up for council. But House Bill 2170, there's a companion bill which is Senate Bill 5999, and what it would do is it authorizes the Department of Natural Resources to enter into contracts for payment for ecosystem service projects that generate revenue that either directly or indirectly benefit humans or enhance social welfare. It allows for contracts up to 125 years. And so what these kind of ecosystem services could include are things like carbon sequestration, air and water filtration, climate stabilization, and disturbance mitigation. but basically it would authorize DNR to find alternative ways to use public lands to generate revenues, outside of timber sales, which are, currently the main way that DNR is generating revenue on some of these public lands. And so I know that was a part of a topic of conversation. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that bill, see if you were interested in taking a position, or if not, we can kind of learn more as we go through the process. But that was one that stood out to me just since that was talked about this morning.
Would that be strictly for DNR lands, or I'm just wondering about some of our public lands and our ability to provide those ecosystem services?
As I read the bill, it is just subject to Department of Natural Resource lands.
And the revenue generated, would that be maybe especially on trust land, something that could then go out to those beneficiaries?
Yes. So the bill does talk about for if DNR was to try to take advantage of this program on, let's say, county trust lands, they would need to provide that funding to the junior taxing districts in the same way that they do now with the timber revenue.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Councilor Little.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could talk about some examples. If you know any offhand, would this be like a city contracting with us to provide flood mitigation or clean water for the city, or possibly get for older growth trees like a carbon sequestration credit, and we would get economic benefit directly in our community from it?
Yeah, so that is how I read this. It's, it is specific to DNR lands and DNR managed lands, but the kinds of ecosystem services and, putting together an ecosystem service marketplace where they could, trade credits like they do with carbon, and use that revenue to essentially, provide revenue to the junior taxing districts.
I think that's where things are headed. So I would be supportive.
Yeah, I think we may have mentioned this even in one of our letters to DNR. So I would be supportive.
Chair, just real quick, I was wondering, it sounded to me from their presentation this morning that they were looking at some new forms of revenue to fund their actual processes as well. So I'm curious, is this going to, is there a certain amount of it that's going to be allowed to be used for new staff in their department? It's kind of a weird thing, in order for them to further develop their program, they have to cut more trees down. That's essentially what it comes down to, because they're funded by those services. Whereas I'm normally a believer in cost recovery, it does put a strange element to this. So I'd be curious in knowing if they plan to use any of the revenue to support the services that they already do, and then additional services they may be doing.
So the way I'm reading this bill is it's amending the current statutes around how DNR manages some of these different forest lands. And so, for instance, so they amend RCW 79-64-110, which basically it talks about how any monies derived from the lease of state forest lands, from the sale of valuable materials, oils, gases, coal, minerals, fossils, and then adds in or contracts for ecosystem services from these lands, except as provided in RCW 79-64-130. They have to distribute those revenues in certain ways, right? So DNR takes a cut. They take the first cut for administration, not to exceed 25%. That rate is determined by the Board of Natural Resources. And then the rest of the statute is left in place. So as I read this, it's really basically saying DNR has a number of activities that they can do, mostly extractive, to generate revenue on their lands. And this would add in these ecosystem services as one way that they could generate revenue. and then distribute it. But to the commissioners' points this morning, I would imagine that they would need to make sure that it pencils out for DNR to be able to do this. If it was more economically viable to continue doing timber harvest, they would probably do that rather than lose money on a carbon sequestration program.
Okay, and so it sounded, if I understood you correctly, they essentially will be able to take up to 25% for admin, but that's determined by the board.
Yeah. So
Okay.
basically the amount they can take in administration is already determined in state statute. And that mechanism remains the same. It just kind of adds in
Okay,
these
thank you.
ecosystem services as one way they can do it.
Thank you.
Great. Do we have 3 thumbs up on this one?
Is that thumbs up to support at this point in case there's a hearing that comes up, or what are we thumbs upping for?
I'm thumbs upping for supporting.
Supporting? At this point, I don't see any reason why not, but I don't know the entire
But
content.
we have 3s, and we'll learn more as the session unfolds. Okay. Anything else, Jordan?
No, that's what I've got for you today on legislative bills. The only other thing I would mention to council is that Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and so county offices are closed. I have been working with our lobbyist at looking at potential times to reschedule our currently scheduled Monday morning meeting. He will not know until tonight, when next week's hearing calendar comes out, what times will work on Tuesday next week. But we will look at council's calendars and try to find a time that works as best as we can. I know we've got a couple of counselors traveling next week, and so they may or may not be able to make it, but we'll do our best to reschedule that. And for members of the public who might want to attend that lobbyist meeting, we'll get that noticed tomorrow as soon as we have that information.
Great. Thanks. Thanks very much. Okay, that moves us on to executive session 9.1, pending litigation, RCW 42.30.110, paren 1, paren little I, for 10 minutes with potential after action. So that would take us to 2:55. Okay. Okay, council has returned from our executive session. Is there a motion?
Yes, Chair. I make a motion to approve and accept on behalf of the county the settlement agreement and release of claims document in the case of O'Neill Payne III versus Clark County et al., case number 3:25-CV-05045-TMC, and that the county manager be authorized to execute the same.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. And that concludes our meeting without objection. We are adjourned.
Okay.